Hello guys, my name is Tian, and I'm a 2100 USCF player. I want to show a tournament game I just played recently, and this is my first time uploaded again analyze video, so hopefully it works well and you can enjoy the game. So here is how the game goes. Starts with e4. I was black in the game and it's the second round of the tournament. I played at the beginning of this May called the Arpad Open. Took place in Oconomowoc in Wisconsin. My opponent was about 1776 and my rating was about 2100. So this starts with a Sicilian and I expect that he was going after the open Sicilian or the Moraxipine after transposing, but in the game he didn't play either of them. So I played g6, now bishop c4. This is kind of the annoying variation to mat. Um, it's not real opening, it's no actual theory, but why play really aggressively hoping to target this relatively weakened square on f7 and waiting for some chance at the later part of the game. I played bishop g7, d3. So white plays some sort of irregular closed Sicilian. Um, I don't sure if this is any kind of real variation or is there even a name for what white played. I don't believe it. I think it's just a irregular closed Sicilian structure. While normally white would put their bishop on g2 and play knight ge2 to play kind of like the regular closed structure. So I think this is still playable, but just not as effective as the almost closed Sicilian. So play knight to c6, knight c3, d6. The reason that I need to play d6 first is I cannot play knight to f6 and expect to castle immediately because white can throw in e5. I definitely do not want to move the knight back. And knight h5 seems a little bit unusual as well, so the most normal square knight to g4, but then that we ended up a disaster for black where we immediately take on f7. Of course black has to take, otherwise just lost a pawn and lost the right to castle without any return. Now after king to f7, however, there is knight to g5 check, then white will be winning the piece back plus up a clear pawn, and the black king will not be able to castle for the rest of the game. So in order to avoid that threat, I play d6 first, ready to go for knight to f6. And by the way, if white decided to attack on f7 immediately, I was planning to either put my knight on h6 ready to castle or play e6 and ready to put my knight on here. He could try to attack my f7 square one more time. I just don't think that would really work well. Now we just play queen to f6, possibly trade off the queen, or simply play knight to f6, get ready to castle. Okay, so white play bishop e7, e3, and knight f6, castle, castle. Now white goes after queen to d2. If I want to avoid trade off my bishop, I could have played rook e8 here. And if bishop h6, then I'll just play bishop h8. But in the game, I don't see there is a very good pawn to avoid trade it off. I mean, if possible, I would love to keep the fianchetto bishop. But if not, then I don't want to waste a few moves to just preserve the bishop. So in the game, I decided that going after the light square, white light square bishop on c4 would be more practical choice because the bishop, if I don't sweep it off the board, it might just keep some constant pressure for the rest of the game towards f7 and my king. So I play knight 5, and white's bishop cannot escape from the trade-off. So white goes after the g7 bishop. I took on c4. I'll take. Then bishop e6. I decided to force white to play b3, and my idea was to later on reroute my bishop to d7 and c6 to throw in the pawn break, which afterwards, once I get to open up the position, my lonely bishop, I mean the only bishop left on the board, will give me some advantage, I believe. So white takes on g7, I take, and then white play b3, I play a6, ready to throw in my plan. White play knight to h4, planning to play f4 and f5. So normally what we're supposed to do in the game, when you have your plan and your opponent have his plan, it's better to keep going with our own plan unless we have a very good reason or we are forced to stop our plan and respond to our opponent's plan or their threat. So otherwise, it's always better to just keep going with what we plan to do, because you want to play the game in your own hands, not just defend or respond to their threat. Okay, so I play bishop d7. I'm ready to throw in b5. I goes f4. So before I play I play b5, I decided to play bishop c6 first, just to gain a tempo attacking the pawn, and then put my bishop on the relatively long diagonal, which later on could help me to create some sort of threat to white's king side. So it's always a good idea to put your pieces on a square that control a lot of potential squares, files, ranks, or diagonals, which it might not doing anything right now that's really useful, but later on in the game we realize it will be a huge resource. So bishop c6, that was the pawn. Queen to e1, white wanna throw in e5 without allowing trade off the queen, because he wanna keep the attack for sure. Then in the game I just play b5, and now the position will get to open up regardless. If white ignore my b5 pawn, then I would take his pawn and then give him the double isolated pawns on c5 and isolated pawns on a file. That would not be an ideal case for white. And if he did respond to my pawn break, like what happened in the game, then now I will always have the target, the a2 pawn, to threaten him for the rest of the game. And in this case, it's clear that my bishop will soon be more useful than white's knight's pair. And even though so far white might still control a lot more space, especially towards the center and kind of threat towards my king side, but I don't see there's a real way that this attack is really going to work for white. And what I play in the game is, I think that's how black can open up the position further and get some play. I mean, even way before that, I decided to throw in some pawn moves myself. White decided to open up the game, which now my bishop on c6 is starting to work great, and I just take. So the idea is, if white just simply take back or push the pawn, either way doesn't care, I would have queen to d4, occupy the nice square, and possibly jump in my knight with knight to g4. It's not necessary that would be my actual play if that's what happened in the game, but that's my plan. So queen to d4 would be a nice square for the queen. So white decided to not to allow my queen going to d4. He played rook d1. So it goes queen to c7. and white takes. Now it looks like black is in kind of trouble. I cannot put my knight on either squares, and the most logical square would be g4. But it turns out that's the good square. The problem for white is now I have two pieces attacking the pawn, and white only has the queen. If you want to defend the pawn one more time, the only way he can do that is knight to f3. But then I would just take on f3 immediately, which means black will win in one pawn to the minimum extent. And another way to defend the pawn after knight to g4 is to push the pawn to e6. But that's a disaster for white, because my queen and the knight is targeted on h2, and they will be ended up checkmate if he play e6. So he play queen to g3 in the game, which I think is very practical. Allow the pawn to be taken, but at least maneuver the queen towards my king side, which could create some sort of threat. So I calculate in the game, and then decided to take, and take. So what I originally thought, I thought that white was going to play knight to f5, and then after king to h8, he is going to take on e7, which I see that will be a blunder because queen e3 will fork the knight and the king. So in the game, white decided to play rook d3 first, possibly just force my queen off the target on e3, so that after later on he take on e7, I won't be able to fork his knight. The problem for white is still here though, and that's what happened in the game. So I decided to take the free pawn on c2. I don't see there's any reason not to. And then white throwing the move f5, which turns out to be a losing move right now. And I play king to h8. So now if you wish, you have the interest, you can pause the video for 10 or 20 seconds, maybe up to 1 minute, and trying to figure out what is the problem for white. How this white is already loosening the position. Okay, so the problem for white is that now his rook on d3 is undefended, and the knight on f5 it's attacking by the pawn, because the king is off the pin right now. It's a real threat, and there is no move white can defend in both pieces simultaneously. So in the game, white played rook to g3. He thought that that's the move save both of his pieces, because obviously I cannot take on f5 with either my pawn or my queen, because that's taking with the queen, he got the rook to defend in f5. I would be losing the queen, of course not. And taking with the pawn, that's a even huge larger blunder, because queen g7 there will be a checkmate instantly. But however, this is still losing for white. And again, you can pause the video for 10 or 20 seconds, find out the move that's instantly winning for black. So, and this is what happened in the game. I played bishop d7. This pin towards the queen, there's no way white can save his knight, but white still make an effort. So he played rook to f2. Now, please try to calculate the variation as long as possible if you can. What happened after bishop takes? Is black going to win in the endgame easily afterwards? And as far as I can calculate, I think the answer is not. Black might be still winning, but it's not such an easy win. So in case that if I took, is what I calculate in the game, and he took, I took on here and take. So this case I will be up 2 pawns. It's not too easy to defend though, because I will only have 1 pass pawn, and white's pieces might always be ready to defend. And on the queen side, I don't have any advantage. Plus that if I want to keep my extra pawns, I also need to put some effort defending my c4 pawn. I mean c5 pawn. So in the game, I decided to go after another variation. after queen to f2, I check first. Then rook f1, which is force. Now I took on f5, which make a huge difference. And you can pause the video for another 10 or 20 seconds to see how does that make a difference in this case. And so the answer is, once I took on f5 now, if white take on my queen, then I take his queen, rook to g4. I will be winning another pawn on a2 because his rook is on b1 instead of c2. So this is a much better version for me in the endgame. A pretty easy win, I believe. And we can see how. So take, 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 and a2. Up 3 pawns. And my rook is already on a2, which sooner or later I will be double my rook on the second rank. This is a much easier win for black. So in the game, my opponent decided not to take my queen, but save the pieces on the board. Of course, the problem is now I would just up a clear bishop, and there's no attack left for white. And I play queen to b2 in the game just to defend in g7, which is not so necessary, and could have just played queen to e4, defending the e7 pawn, not even allow white to take any pawn back. Although queen to b2, and this is still winning for black. Okay, so queen takes on e7. I play the check first, and then rook e8 drive the queen away. Now rook to e4. So a very important principle we should always keep in mind is whether we are up pieces or down pieces or equal material. It's important to maximize our pieces activity as long as we can make sure our king is safe. Never just make them sitting back at home, but try to do as much as you can. So rook e4, I try to stop white's possible plan pawn to h4, and also ready to double my rooks on the e file. White takes the f8 rook, now rook f e8, h3, rook to u1, trade off the rooks. So very simple play. Unless we have a huge attack to go in after 4 or more materials to win, it's always just a simple idea to trade off more pieces and going for an easy winning endgame, especially in the case up a bishop like now. Rook gf3, so queen d1, take queen f4 and trade off the rooks. Now queen to d4. I mean, in this case I have almost infinite ways to win. Can play any move I want. Rook e1 will be playable as well, and my king is very safe. There after queen to b8 there isn't a second check, so rook e1 very sensible. But in the game, just decided to play the funny way as much as I can enjoy it, because almost I can win in this position with any move. So I just play whatever moves I feel it's funny to play. So queen to d4, I want to trade off the queen, and if it takes, of course I would get a pass pawn. So why avoid to trade off the queen? But now I just play rook to e3, another move. Again, once we make sure the king is safe, it's always a good idea to maximize our pieces range. Just start an attack, or either positionally or tactically. And here, if white randomly retreats queen to somewhere, then I might start an attack somehow. Let's say if queen to f2, I have an idea like bishop to e4, and my thoughts was that if he took on f2, then I would have a f7, and I would have this checkmate immediately thanks to this pin on the diagonal. So obviously after rook e3, white's in huge trouble. He must retreat his queen, but it's not easy to decide where to retreat the queen. So in the game, white finally just make another blunder and make my win even easier. He played rook to d1, and I took on f3, instantly, because now he must take my queen back, of course. Then instead of taking the rook and going for that winning game, I can win the game even easier with rook f1, check and escape my rook win attack, and take on d4. In this case, just upper rook and a bishop to be an easy win. So that's how the game went. I have a very bad tournament at the end of April, and also the first round of this tournament, I actually lost to a player that was about 350 points lower rated than me. So this was a nice comeback for me, and I get to gain some confidence back in the tournament. And from round 2 to round 5 I get to have the winning strike against a 1700, 2100, and two 1900. So um, at the end of the tournament, I get to tie for the first place with two other 2100 players. We all scored 4 out of 5. So thank you so much to watch, and I hope to see you next time.